Hi there. The story we're diving into today is nothing like the chivalric ballads or fairy tales of beautiful princesses. This is the story of an ordinary girl from a poor village who grew up in dirt, hunger, and fear, where every smile was a commodity and every move was judged on the market of life. But before you get comfortable, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is there. I'm always curious to see who's joined us. Now, settle in and make yourself cozy. We're about to begin. You are born into the soft, fetid darkness of a peasant hut, your first breath a struggle against the thick, smoky air. Your mother, exhausted and bleeding, winces in pain as the midwife mutters a prayer, mostly for herself, not for you. Your father is absent, more interested in his 13th cup of weak ale than in the shrill new voice wailing from the straw. You are, after all, his 15th child, and the excitement of new life has long since faded into dull routine, indistinguishable from the noise of pigs rooting beneath the floorboards. In this village, nestled somewhere between the muddy edge of a dying forest and the sullen, meandering river, no one expects much from life. By the time you are old enough to speak, you will have learned that half of all children die before their fifth winter, killed by hunger, fever, or the simple cold indifference of fate. The other half grow up bent backed and grimy, measuring out their days in handfuls of barley and dirty water. You are born in early spring, a season that brings little hope. The ground is still too hard for planting, the air thick with the rot of old snow and new manure. The neighbors come to look at you, as they always do, with the same flat eyes they reserve for livestock and the rare, malformed lamb. You are counted, catalogued, another small body in the crowded hovel. Your mother prays you will be strong, but she does not dare pray for happiness. That would be blasphemy. No one in your world expects happiness, only survival. Your world is circumscribed by mud, that universal element of medieval life. It clings to your father's boots, cakes the walls, seeps into the straw where you sleep. Cleanliness is a myth, a fantasy whispered by the priest between warnings about sin and pestilence. Disease waits everywhere, in the water drawn from the shallow well, in the scratches from angry geese, in the lice that nestle in your hair from the day you are born. The village healer, an old woman who smells of garlic and despair, has outlived more than a dozen infants. She looks at you and shrugs, as if to say, "Let us see." Your family's hut is shared with a rotating cast of aunts, uncles, siblings, and even the village pig during the coldest months. Privacy is an alien concept. Your first years are spent pressed between bodies, the air always thick with the smells of sweat, onions, and the sharp tang of wood smoke. If you cry, no one comes running. If you fall, you are expected to pick yourself up unless you cannot. Then, perhaps, someone will notice in time. From your earliest days, your value is measured in practical terms. Your father counts your brothers and sighs when he counts you, another daughter among many. Daughters are currency, potential bartered away for grain or a handful of coins. Your mother, Her eyes, permanently shadowed by exhaustion, tries to keep you clean, but water is precious, and soap is a luxury used for the priest's vestments, not for children. The seasons turn in an endless, unremarkable cycle: sowing, weeding, harvesting, dying. You learn to fear the sound of coughing in the night, to dread the dark spots that bloom on the neighbor's skin, to hope for enough bread to quiet the constant ache in your belly. The word future means nothing except the day after tomorrow, and sometimes not even that. Already, before you are old enough to remember, you are spoken of in terms of your usefulness. She is a healthy one, says the midwife, checking your gums with hands blackened from the hearth. Perhaps she will live. That is the best blessing you will ever receive. In this world, the strong survive, and the rest, well, no one remembers the rest for long. So your life begins, not with a promise, but with a tally mark. 15 children, of whom maybe 6 will see adulthood, if the gods are merciful and the rats do not eat too much of the winter stores. You are a daughter, a future exchange, a mouth to feed until you become a commodity. There are no fairy tales here, only ledgers. You will grow up understanding that love is something whispered at funerals, and that hope is what the priest sells before taking his share of the bread. Your story has begun, and already you are forfeit, marked by birth, by mud, and by the dull, relentless grind of necessity. But at least, for now, you are alive. And in the medieval world, that is the closest thing to a victory you will ever know. Your earliest memories are built not from moments of joy, but from layers of mud and the constant drone of discomfort. You learn to walk by staggering through straw and filth, your feet always slick, your knees forever bruised. There is no such thing as a clean child. You are as much a part of the dirt as the potatoes that rot in your family's meager cellar. Morning brings no freshness. It brings chores, backbreaking, never ending, pointless chores that must be done to survive, though they never seem to change anything. You wake before the sun, the chill clawing at your bones, and follow your mother out to the yard where the chickens peck at old rags and the air stinks of manure. You learn that the difference between a good day and a bad day is whether you step in fresh dung with your bare feet or merely in the puddle of yesterday's. Play is a concept for those with leisure. You have none. Your games are simple: finding the biggest worm in the mud, seeing how many pebbles you can collect before someone notices you are not working, guessing how many lice you can catch in a single afternoon. You make dolls from rags and mud, name them after the dead sisters and brothers you never met, and whisper secrets to them that no one else cares to hear. Every surface in your life is covered in something unpleasant. The walls, made of wattle and daub, are pitted and oozing with moisture. The floor is packed earth, a thin veneer of straw scattered over a foundation of animal droppings. In summer, the fleas rise in clouds from the bedding. In winter, the chill is so deep that even the rats seek your warmth at night, crawling over your limbs as you sleep. You grow used to sharing your world with vermin, and when you see your reflection in a puddle, your first thought is to check for scabs. Your body is not your own. It is the village's, the family's, the future's. You are inspected for parasites and rashes, for bruises that might mean disease, for signs that you are becoming useful. The only attention you receive is practical. Are you strong enough to fetch water? Can you hold a chicken without dropping it? Do you cough too much at night? No one asks if you are happy, and if you are foolish enough to mention loneliness, you will be told to fetch more firewood. The adults speak in low voices about the dangers that lurk everywhere. Cholera, typhus, the fever with no name that sweeps through the village every second year and leaves little behind except quiet huts and the smell of rotting straw. You see children disappear one by one, their places at the fire growing cold. Sometimes you wonder if it would be easier to go with them, but the will to survive is hardwired. It clings to you, even as hunger gnaws at your belly and your fingers go numb from cold. You learn very early that water is a dangerous luxury. The well is shallow and brackish, ringed with slime and filled with frogs. Drinking from it is a gamble. Sometimes you win, and your thirst is quenched. Sometimes you lose, and your insides twist with cramps until you pray for sleep that never comes. Soap is a fairy tale, a word spoken in church when the priest lectures about sin and cleanliness, but you have never seen it, and your mother shakes her head at the very mention. There are a handful of adults in the village who are rumored to be wise. The priest, who visits once every few months and smells faintly of old wine. The healer, who cackles as she measures out foul smelling herbs and insists that every ailment is caused by imbalanced humors. And the headman, whose main wisdom is knowing how to collect taxes before the Lord's men arrive. None of them can save you from hunger or cold. Their stories are a poor replacement for a full belly. The little food you receive is always the same: thin gruel, occasionally livened up with a handful of wilted greens or the rare sliver of salted meat. Bread is hard, nearly inedible, and must be dipped in water to be chewed. When you are lucky, you catch the scraps the adults leave behind: gnawed bones, chicken feet, the rinds of old cheese. You eat quickly, hoping the others will not notice if you take a bit extra, but you know better than to try twice in a row. If you are ill, you are sent to bed with nothing more than a prayer and a rag soaked in lukewarm water. Sometimes the healer comes with her pouch of dried plants and whispers about spirits. She gives you something bitter to chew, and if you are lucky, it does nothing. If you are unlucky, you vomit for days and wake up weaker than before. There is no doctor, no certainty. Survival is a coin toss, and the coin is often weighted against you. Your clothing is a patchwork of scraps: wool so rough it leaves rashes, linen so thin it shreds at the first sign of stress. In summer, you swelter in dirty rags. In winter, you shiver, dreaming of warmth that never comes. If a garment grows too small, it is passed to a sibling, usually after being hastily sewn back together with bone needles and bits of twine. Shoes are a privilege you hear about in stories. Your feet grow calloused and cracked, and by the age of 8, you can run over thorns without bleeding. Education is a fantasy reserved for the very rich or the very holy. You learn only what is necessary, how to avoid the worst chores, how to recognize which mushrooms will kill you, how to find edible weeds when the stores run out. Your mother teaches you to say your prayers, to bow your head when the Lord's men ride by, and to never, ever draw attention to yourself. Knowledge is dangerous. Those who know too much are always the first to be blamed when the livestock die or the river floods. Still, you survive, mostly by keeping your head down and your hands busy. The days blur into one another, an endless loop of work and want. Your only moments of escape are in dreams, and even those are invaded by lice and the smell of smoke. So passes your childhood, a dull, unending lesson in endurance. You learn to expect nothing and accept everything. In the medieval world, that is the closest thing to wisdom a girl like you will ever receive. By the age of 7, you understand more about your own worth than any child should. You are not a person, you are a sum of traits, a series of evaluations, a potential transaction. You notice the way adults appraise you, their eyes running over your limbs, your teeth, your hair. They talk over your head as if you are not there, discussing your future with the same detachment reserved for a goat or a sack of barley. It happens gradually. At first, you overhear snatches of conversation, quiet asides muttered while the bread bakes or while the animals are fed. She is strong for her age, your father notes, wiping the sweat from his brow. Her teeth are all there, your mother adds, poking at your mouth with a finger that smells of onions and old cheese. She will be useful. The word hangs in the air like the smoke from the hearth, cloying, inescapable. You realize dimly that being useful is the closest thing to a compliment you will ever receive. You have seen what happens to those who are not. The sickly child who simply stopped waking up one day, the boy who was born wrong and now spends his days wandering the fields, half wild, mumbling to himself. There is no pity here, only a kind of hard pragmatism. You must be worth something, or you are worth nothing at all. Your body is measured, weighed, and compared. At times, relatives pinch your arms, testing for muscle. An ant pulls your hair, checking for lice. Healthy, she says, almost grudgingly. You wish you could disappear, become invisible, but invisibility is reserved for those who have already been forgotten. You are, for now, a topic of interest, an asset, a potential investment. There are stories told by the firelight, tales of girls who brought prosperity to their families. She was so beautiful, the Baron himself asked for her, your grandmother recalls, eyes clouded with memories and cataracts. No one speaks of what happened after. The stories end there, in a haze of wishful thinking and unfinished prayers. The adults do not tell you what it means to be given away, only that it is an honor, a chance, a possibility. You are encouraged to believe that you might be special, but deep down you know the truth. You are only as special as your value to someone else. You begin to notice the way your mother watches you when you eat, her eyes calculating how much you consume and how much you have grown. She tries to keep your hair untangled and your face clean. The water is always in short supply. Brush your hair, she says, thrusting a comb made from bone into your hand. A girl must look presentable. You hear the envy in your sisters' voices as they argue over who will wear the least patched dress on feast days. You are aware, for the first time, that appearance matters in ways you do not fully understand. The village is full of girls like you, each one measured and compared against the others, their futures mapped out by whispers and glances. Sometimes you wonder what it would be like to run away, to disappear into the woods and never return. But you know, even then, that the world beyond is just as cold, just as unforgiving. There is no escape from value. It is stitched into the very fabric of your existence. You notice, too, the way visitors from other villages look at you, strangers with hungry eyes and sharp tongues. They speak in low voices with your father, nodding toward you as if inspecting a pig at market. She will be ready soon, your father says, and you feel a chill run down your spine. Ready for what exactly is never specified, but you sense the anticipation in the air, the sense of an approaching transaction. You begin to dream of other lives, imagining a world where you are more than a commodity. In your dreams, you are a princess, a knight, a healer, someone whose choices matter. But in the daylight, reality asserts itself. You are a girl in a village where dreams are a luxury no one can afford. At night, you listen to your parents argue in hushed voices. The words dowry and arrangement surface again and again, tangled with worries about harvests and debts. Sometimes your mother cries quietly, her sobs muffled by the rough wool of her shawl. You do not understand all of it, but you know enough. Your fate will not be your own. There are moments of tenderness, brief and fleeting. Your mother strokes your hair and whispers, "Be good, be strong." Your father pats your head, distracted, already thinking of the next season's crops. Love, if it exists, is hidden beneath layers of necessity and resignation. You clutch at these moments, knowing they are as fragile as the thin broth that passes for supper, and so you grow, aware of the countdown that ticks away in the minds of everyone around you. You learn to measure yourself against a standard you did not set, to judge your own worth by the way others look at you. Every day is a rehearsal for the moment when you will be appraised and traded, when your body and your value will become someone else's concern. You do not know when or how, but you know it is coming. The certainty of it settles into your bones, a cold, relentless presence. You are a girl, a commodity, a promise waiting to be fulfilled, and in the world that shaped you, that is all you will ever be. By the time you reach the age of 12, your body betrays you in new ways. Each change a signal, each sign a warning. You are not allowed to become yourself, only to become more valuable. Your bones lengthen, your hips widen, and your skin, when it is not caked with grime, shows the first signs of womanhood. This is not a cause for celebration. It is a cause for anxious whispering, sharp looks, and careful observation. You begin to understand that your usefulness has an expiration date. and that your value is peaking, ready to be spent. Your mother inspects you with a different kind of scrutiny now. She pulls your hair tighter, making your scalp burn, then sighs as she finds another patch of lice. She pinches your cheeks to bring color to your face and forces you to wash, if not every week, then at least on holy days, though the water is as brown as the river mud and just as cold. Your nails are scraped clean with a knife's edge. You must look presentable, she says, though you know that nothing short of a miracle could make you truly clean. There is an irony in the ritual of cleanliness. Your family cannot afford to waste good soap on you, so your scrubbing is mostly for show. Sometimes, if someone important is coming, perhaps the local priest or a steward from the Lord's manor, your mother heats water on the hearth and dabs your face with a rag, muttering prayers for beauty and fertility. In these moments, you are transformed from a child of dirt into an object of potential, scrubbed raw for inspection. The older women in the village watch you with a mixture of envy and warning. Do not get too proud, one croaks, squinting with milky eyes. Beauty fades, and so does fortune. Another, who has lost 3 daughters to childbirth and 2 to fever, merely shakes her head. You understand the lesson. Your body is a brief advantage, a tool to be used before it betrays you entirely. You are kept apart from the roughest work now. No longer are you allowed to run barefoot through the fields, or climb trees for eggs, or roughhouse with your brothers. The slightest bruise is cause for panic, the smallest cut a potential mark against your value. Your mother sets you to needlework, a tedious task that leaves your fingers pricked and aching. A lady must know her place, she intones, as if reciting a charm against bad luck. You wonder what kind of lady lives in a hut with a leaking roof and walls stained black with soot. Your appetite is monitored, your posture corrected, your voice lowered to a meek murmur. You are told to walk with small steps, to speak only when spoken to avoid looking men in the eye. Every lesson is a reminder that you are no longer a child, but not yet a woman, something in between, poised on the knife edge of expectation. You must be desirable, but not too forward, healthy, but not too sturdy, clever, but never opinionated. As your body changes, the stares of men change too. You feel their eyes lingering on you longer than before, measuring, considering. Some leer, some look away quickly, as if ashamed. You understand, wordlessly, that danger comes with this new attention. Your mother is quick to notice, and she rarely lets you out of her sight. When you must go to the well, it is in a group, with your younger siblings trailing behind, like ducklings. If a stranger passes through the village, you are ushered indoors, the shutters closed tight. There are rumors, always rumors. Stories of girls stolen by bandits, or worse, by the Lord's men. Tales of disappearances, of girls who ventured too far and were never seen again. Your mother does not speak of these things directly, but she leaves charms above the door and sprinkles ash along the threshold. You learn to make yourself small, to slip through the world without drawing notice. Yet, even as you are hidden away, preparations begin. A neighbor comes to visit, his wife in tow, and they bring gifts, small, practical things. A few eggs, a spindle of thread, a cracked comb. They sit with your parents by the fire, their voices low and urgent. You are sent outside to fetch more wood, but you linger near the door, catching fragments of conversation. She is strong, the neighbor says. Good teeth, good hips. She will bear many children. Your father grunts in agreement, and you feel a strange detachment, as if they are speaking of someone else. When you return inside, the conversation stops. The neighbor's wife looks at you with a mixture of pity and calculation. You try to smile, but your lips do not obey. You understand that you are being considered, measured, and perhaps already promised. The air is thick with possibility and dread. At night, you lie awake, listening to the muffled sounds of your parents talking in the darkness. They speak of debts, of favors owed, of what will become of you. Your mother's voice trembles with worry. Your father's is rough and resigned. You do not cry. You have learned by now that tears are wasted. Instead, you stare at the flickering shadows on the wall, tracing patterns in the soot and waiting for sleep to claim you. Your future, you realize, is not your own. It is a path laid out before you, narrow and unyielding, bordered on both sides by obligation and necessity. Your only power is in being chosen, and even that is not a choice you make. You can only hope that those who choose you are not cruel, that your body remains strong, that you will be allowed to live long enough to grow old and fade into the background, like the other women who haunt the edges of your world. Adolescence, then, is not a time of discovery, but of narrowing possibilities. Each day, you become more valuable and thus less free. Your beauty is a debt to be paid, your body a coin to be spent. The world waits for you to ripen, and you can only hope it will not devour you whole. The day it happens, the world does not stop. The sky is gray, heavy with the promise of rain that may or may not come. Chickens scratch in the mud, children quarrel over a cracked wooden bowl, and the air smells as it always does, damp, sour, threaded through with smoke and the faint metallic tang of blood. But inside your hut, everything changes. You are 13 years old when it begins. You wake in the half light, your body clammy, and you know instantly that something is wrong. Your shift is stained, wet, and rusty, and the ache in your belly is sharp, insistent. At first, you think you have injured yourself, perhaps during yesterday's chores, when you stumbled carrying the bucket of water that sloshed over your bare feet and splattered cold down your legs. But as you lie there, the truth rises, unwelcome, and you remember the warnings and the whispers. You are a woman now, or so they say. You do not scream. That is for girls, and you are not a girl anymore. Instead, you pad softly to your mother, who is already up and kneeling by the hearth, coaxing the coals to life. She looks at your face and knows immediately. Without a word, she rises and takes your hand, her grip surprisingly strong. She leads you behind the tattered curtain that serves as your only privacy, away from the curious eyes of your siblings. There is a grim efficiency to the way she works, fetching a rag, tearing it into strips, showing you how to tie them in place. You watch, numb and shivering, as she wipes the blood from your thighs. Hush now, she says, but her voice is neither gentle nor soothing. It is tired, thin, like a frayed rope. This moment is not for celebration in the way you had imagined as a small child, listening to the old wives' tales. There are no feasts, no dances, no gifts. Instead, your mother lights a candle, mutters a prayer to the Virgin Mary, and presses a lump of stale bread into your palm. For luck, she says, but luck has always been in short supply. There is fear behind her eyes, sharp and cold, and you realize with a twist of dread that this is not a beginning. It is a warning. Later, your father returns from the fields, mud clinging to his boots, and your mother pulls him aside. Their voices are low, barely above the crackle of the fire. You hear your name and the word ready, and the creak of the table as your father slumps into a seat. He does not look at you for the rest of the evening. When you dare to meet his eyes, you see something that is not quite pride and not quite grief, only calculation. That night, there is a strange sort of tension in the hut. Your siblings sense it, though they do not understand. Your youngest brother, still soft cheeked and wide eyed, tries to snuggle close, but your mother pushes him away. Let her rest, she says. You wish she would allow you the same mercy. The next morning, the news has already spread. Women at the well glance at you, then look away quickly. The older girls whisper, some with envy, some with pity. A neighbor's wife pats your shoulder and murmurs, "Soon enough, child." The healer, hearing of your passage into womanhood, arrives uninvited and presses a handful of dried herbs into your mother's palm. For the cramps, she says, though the look she gives you is one of resignation rather than kindness. You feel exposed, vulnerable in a way that is worse than nakedness. Every movement, every word, every glance seems to be watched. Your value has shifted overnight, become both more and less than before. More, because now you are officially eligible for whatever bargain your family can strike. Less, because now you are a known quantity, no longer the innocent child, no longer shielded by the veil of possibility. From this day forward, every adult around you knows what you are. You are a vessel, a future mother, a unit of trade. At the evening meal, your father is quieter than usual. He turns the food in his hands, calculating, as if weighing your worth against the meager stores left for the winter. Your mother glances at you, then away, her face drawn. She is already rehearsing her lines for the next time a neighbor or a steward visits. Yes, she is ready. Yes, she is healthy. Yes, we have kept her pure. There are rules now, stricter than before. You must not be seen alone with any man, not even a boy your own age. You must not laugh too loudly, nor walk too quickly. Your clothing, already threadbare, is checked for modesty, nothing too short, nothing too revealing. Your mother watches you constantly, correcting your posture, smoothing your hair, slapping your hand away if you fidget or pick at your scabs. You are given new chores, all indoors, all repetitive. Your hands grow more skillful at spinning and mending, your eyes more adept at picking out tiny imperfections in cloth. Every day, you are reminded that you must be presentable, valuable, desirable. Your mother lectures you about obedience and silence. A good girl brings a good match, she says, though you sense the hope has long ago drained from her voice. Your world contracts, becomes a series of small, suffocating rituals. Wake early. Wash. If there is water, comb your hair. Keep your mouth shut. Smile when spoken to. Endure. Always endure. At night, when you lie on your straw mattress and stare at the soot stained ceiling, you try to imagine another life. You think of stories you have heard, princesses, witches, saints, but none of them end well. You wonder, not for the first time, what it would be like to be a bird, able to fly away, able to leave behind the endless cycle of hunger and hope. But you are not a bird. You are a girl in a world that values you only for what you can give, not for who you are. Your first menstruation is not the beginning of freedom, but the tightening of a noose. The countdown has started. From now on, every day is a step closer to the moment when you will be given away, traded for survival, your body exchanged for a little more time, a little less hunger. And so you sleep, restless and sore, clutching the stale bread in your fist. Tomorrow will be the same as today, only worse. In the darkness, you wonder if anyone will remember your name when you are gone. Your days blur into a sequence of scrutiny. The announcement of your readiness, whispered from ear to ear, spreads faster than the plague. The first to arrive is your father's distant cousin, a man whose boots have never known mud and whose cloak smells faintly of foreign spices. He brings his eldest son, a surly, wide shouldered boy with the heavy brow of someone who has never been told no. They sit at your family's table, their faces expressionless, their eyes heavy with calculation. Your mother instructs you to stand straight, to smile modestly, to speak only when spoken to. She fusses over your hair, tugs your dress lower, pinches your cheeks until they sting. You are paraded out in front of the visitors like livestock. Their gaze is cold, practical. They do not see a girl, they see a collection of traits. Your height, the width of your hips, your teeth bared as they order you to smile so they can check for rot. They inspect your hands, testing the roughness of your palms. Good for work, not so good for display. Their fingers press into your wrists as if weighing your bones against the price of grain. The boy says nothing. He stares at the ceiling, bored, while the adults debate your value. Your father lists your strengths, inflating each one like a market vendor trying to sell a questionable apple. She is strong for her age, no sickness, not even a fever last winter. She keeps a neat home. Your mother nods, adding, "She is obedient. She learns quickly." The cousin raises an eyebrow, unconvinced, and counters with a complaint about your hair, a little thin at the ends. Your father shrugs, a small price to pay. considering the rest. You stand silent, hands folded, eyes on the ground. You have seen this before, but always from the safety of the shadows, when other girls in the village were inspected, compared, and sometimes chosen. You remember their faces, pale and frightened, sometimes hopeful. You always wondered what they were thinking. Now you know nothing. You think nothing because thinking is dangerous. It makes you want things you cannot have. There is more than one visit. There are many. Some suitors are old men with trembling hands. Some are boys not much older than yourself, their eyes darting away whenever you meet them. All of them come with their families, and all of them leave with the same detached nods, as if selecting a sheep for slaughter. None of them address you directly, except to ask your age or whether you can spin, sew, cook. Your answers are short, rehearsed. You are told to smile, and you do. You are told to turn, and you do. You are told to open your mouth, show your hands, walk, stand still. You are not the only girl being inspected this season. The village is alive with rumors. So and so's daughter has caught the eye of the steward's cousin. The miller's niece has been promised to a merchant 2 villages over. You watch the other girls go through the same motions, the anxious waiting, the forced smiles, the pinched cheeks and freshly combed hair. Some return home with hope in their eyes, others with defeat. All of you are bargaining chips in games you do not understand. There is nothing gentle about the process. The adults bargain with a cold, practiced efficiency. They argue over dowries, land, and livestock as if discussing the weather. You are weighed against goats, chickens, and sacks of barley. Your worth fluctuates depending on the quality of the harvest, the severity of the winter, the debts your father owes. Sometimes you are more valuable than your brother's old mule. Sometimes you are worth less than a pig. The worst is when strangers come from far off places. They bring with them a different language, different smells, and different expectations. One man, a minor noble with yellowed teeth and a haughty wife, pinches your chin so hard you bruise. Sturdy, he remarks, as if choosing a cart. Another, a trader with a limp, has you spin wool in front of him while his wife whispers to your mother about the difficulty of finding obedient girls. Every time the door opens, your heart lurches. Every time it closes, you exhale, unsure whether to be relieved or disappointed. Your family is not cruel, but they are desperate. The winter was hard, and the grain stores are low. Your father grows quieter with each failed negotiation. Your mother's hands tremble as she braids your hair, her eyes avoiding yours. You see the strain etched into the lines of her face, the calculation behind every gesture. She loves you, but love is not enough to feed a family of 7. You are told repeatedly that this is normal. This is how it has always been. Your grandmother, who lives in the smoky shadows at the edge of the hut, tells stories of her own selection. I was younger than you, she says, cackling, her remaining teeth like old pearls. Did not even bleed yet, and off I went, with a sack of onions and a pot to my name. You ask her if she was scared. She shrugs. Fear is a luxury. We did not have luxuries. At night, you dream of being invisible. You wish you could slip away, become a shadow in the forest, live among the wolves, and never return. But in the morning, you rise and wash as best you can, don your least tattered dress, and prepare for another day of evaluation. Your body is not your own. It is a resource, an asset, a solution to someone else's problem. Eventually, a decision is made. You are not consulted. The agreement is struck in whispers and handshakes, sealed over a jug of sour wine. You hear the news from your mother, her voice flat and resigned. You are to be sent away, she says, and you do not ask where. It does not matter. What matters is that you are chosen, and that is supposed to mean you are fortunate. You spend your last night at home in silence, staring at the rafters while your siblings sleep beside you, oblivious to the change that is coming. You wonder if you will remember the smell of smoke and onions, the sound of your brother's snoring, the feel of rough straw beneath your cheek. You hope so, though you know that memory is as unreliable as luck. In the morning, you are a little less yourself, a little more a thing to be given. You rise, comb your hair, and wait for the world to decide what happens next. From the moment the decision is made, your life enters a strange limbo, suspended between what was and what comes next. The routine of your days fractures, and everything you do seems to be for the last time. Each task feels ceremonial, heavy with finality, scrubbing the cauldron, milking the reluctant goat, fetching water from the sluggish well. Everyone treats you a little differently, as if you are already half gone, a ghost haunting the threshold of the hut. Your mother begins the rituals of departure, which are as old as the village itself. She sifts through the family's meager belongings, sorting what might pass for gifts or dowry. She chooses, after much deliberation, your only intact shift and the woolen shawl with the fewest holes. These are set aside for you to be worn on the journey. You try them on in front of her, feeling ridiculous and exposed, like a child playing at being an adult. The shawl smells of stale smoke and old milk, but you try to hold your chin high. Your mother says nothing, her lips pressed tight as she fingers the rough fabric. Other items are gathered, tokens for your new household, tributes for those who will judge you. A bar of soap, half used, wrapped in a scrap of linen, a tiny comb with most of its teeth intact, two wooden spoons. It is not much, but it is all your family can spare. Every object is a reminder of how little you are worth and how much they are willing to give just to see you safely settled elsewhere. Each thing is examined, wiped clean as best as possible, wrapped in rags, and placed in a bundle you will carry yourself. You help your mother sew patches on your dress, fingers pricked and bleeding as you force the needle through stubborn cloth. She mutters instructions the entire time. Sit with your knees together, speak softly, do not eat before the men, bow your head if spoken to, smile, but not too much, and remember, never, ever contradict. These lessons are as much a part of your luggage as the dress and the spoons. You tuck them away inside you, alongside your fear, Your siblings watch you with wide eyes. The younger ones sense change but cannot name it. They cling to your skirts and whimper at the idea of you leaving. Your older sister, already married off the previous year, returns for a brief visit, bringing her own warnings. Do not argue, she says, and never refuse food, even if it tastes foul. You will not get another chance. She hugs you tightly, then turns away, hiding her tears. You realize, with a pang, that she is the only one who understands what you are about to face. Your father is busy with arrangements, and his rare words to you are awkward, filtered through the weight of expectation. He makes nervous jokes about how you will not miss the mud, how you will eat well and sleep on soft beds. But he avoids your gaze, and you sense that these are not hopes, only wishes he knows will never come true. He counts the coins he will receive for you over and over, as if he can multiply them by sheer willpower. When he looks at you, it is with the eyes of a man who has lost more than he can afford to count. The day before your departure, a neighbor's wife arrives to braid your hair. She is rough handed and silent, pulling each strand so tight that your scalp burns. Pretty braids bring good luck, she murmurs, but there is little conviction in her voice. When she finishes, she hands you a wilted sprig of herbs. Rosemary for remembrance, she says, though you suspect it is really to ward off evil spirits. You tuck it into your bundle, not daring to hope for either. That night, your mother sits beside you as you pack your belongings. She gives you a cracked wooden cross and a ribbon, faded blue and stiff with age. For protection, she whispers, though you both know it is a flimsy shield against the world that awaits you. She presses her forehead to yours for a long moment, her breath warm and sour. You hear her praying quietly, begging the saints for your safety, for kindness in your new household, for strength you do not feel. The dawn of your departure is gray and sodden. Rain has turned the yard to a slurry of muck, and your shoes, patched and barely holding together, are soaked through before you even reach the road. You try not to look back, but your little brother wails your name, and your mother must pry his fingers from your shawl. Your father stands by the door, rigid, refusing to meet your eyes. He mutters a blessing that sounds more like an apology. You are not traveling alone. A pair of men sent from your new household arrives to escort you. They are strangers, their faces obscured by travel grime and the hoods of their cloaks. Their words are brisk and businesslike. Time to go, they say. We have far to travel. One takes your bundle, the other gestures for you to climb into the cart. You obey, moving as if in a dream, your legs heavy, your mind thick with dread. The cart itself is little comfort. The boards are slick with rain, the straw damp and musty. The men sit silently, occasionally glancing at you, assessing, always assessing. You clutch your bundle to your chest, knuckles white. Your heart pounds, but your face remains blank, a mask you have learned from years of practice. As the village recedes behind you, swallowed by mist and rain, you feel the last threads of childhood slipping away. There are no tears, only numbness. You realize, with a kind of bitter clarity, that the world you are leaving was never truly yours. You were always a guest, a temporary presence, a vessel for other people's hopes and disappointments. The road ahead is long, muddy, and uncertain. You huddle beneath your shawl, the smell of home already fading, replaced by the scent of wet earth and fear. You know, without being told, that nothing will ever be the same. The moment of parting is not what you imagined. There is no great lament, no public mourning. The village wakes as it always does, slow, sour, shivering in the gray dawn. The dogs bark at the unfamiliar cart, and old men watch from the shadows of doorways, their faces unreadable, as if your departure is no different than yesterday's rain. You are neither celebrated nor pitied. You are simply gone, like a sack of grain delivered to the mill, one less mouth to feed. Your mother, who has spent the night moving silently about the hut, speaks little. She braids your hair one last time with trembling fingers, the gesture more habit than comfort. She offers you a rough hunk of bread, a handful of dried apples, and a flask of weak ale for the journey. There are no promises, only reminders. Eat slowly, speak only when you must, listen more than you talk. You nod, swallowing your words, knowing that nothing you say will change the world waiting for you beyond the village edge. Your siblings are restless. The younger ones sulk, not fully understanding what your absence means. They pull at your dress and wail your name as you are led toward the cart, their tears more for themselves than for you. Your older brother, who has already learned to be hard, stands back with his arms folded, refusing to meet your eyes. He is jealous and relieved at once, a tangle of feelings you recognize in yourself. As you climb into the cart, your world shrinks to what you can carry and what you must leave behind. You clutch your bundle and try to memorize every detail: the sagging roof of your home, the muddy path where you learned to walk, the ancient tree where you and your sister carved your names. The air is heavy, thick with the smell of smoke, manure, and wet earth. Even this, you know, will soon fade from your memory, replaced by the unfamiliar stench of strangers and foreign kitchens. Your mother stands a few paces away, hands wringing the edge of her apron until her knuckles are white. She does not cry, not in front of the men sent to fetch you. Instead, Todd, she watches with that same look of resignation you have come to recognize in all the village women. The acceptance that life gives you little and takes much. For a moment, you wish she would break, scream, beg them to let you stay. But she does not. She only mouths a prayer and turns away before the cart lurches forward. The cart is cramped, the straw damp and scratchy against your legs. The two men who accompany you are silent, their faces closed. One smells of sweat and horses, the other of old cheese. You become invisible to them, an object to be delivered, a parcel to be watched but not acknowledged. You sink into the straw, heart pounding, and stare at the village as it slips away behind you. The houses grow smaller, the voices fainter, until the only sound is the creak of wheels and the lowing of a distant cow. You are not allowed the luxury of looking back for long. The road is rough, full of ruts and puddles. Each jolt snaps you out of your daze, reminding you that your life has become something to be transported, something in motion, but not in control. The landscape shifts from muddy lanes to fields choked with weeds to patches of scraggly woodland where the trees lean like old men gossiping in the wind. You try to remember stories about the world beyond your village, but all you know are rumors. Wolves in the woods, spirits in the streams, bandits on lonely roads. As the morning wears on, the damp seeps through your shoes, your skirt, your bones. You shiver, teeth chattering, but say nothing. One of the men tosses a grimy blanket in your direction. It smells worse than the cart, but you clutch it gratefully, wrapping yourself as tightly as you can. You are cold and hungry, but worse than that, you are scared. Not of the men, not even of the journey itself, but of what comes after, the place you are going, the faces you must learn, the rules you will break without knowing. The men stop once in a clearing fringed with stunted pines. They eat quickly, tearing into dark bread and hard cheese, not offering you any. You pick at the dried apples your mother gave you, eating slowly as she instructed, feeling their sharp sweetness stick in your teeth. When you are finished, you tuck the last piece away for later, knowing that hunger is a constant companion in all places, old and new. When the cart sets off again, you realize your little sister is nowhere in sight. She is the only one who cried as you left. And now, as the road grows long and the sky remains sullen and gray, you clutch her memory like a talisman. You hope she forgets you quickly, that she will find someone else to follow, someone whose shadow will stretch over her as yours once did. As afternoon drags toward evening, the world feels larger and colder than ever before. Your home is now just a smudge on the horizon, a cluster of memories fading with every turn of the wheels. You try to tell yourself that this is an adventure, as the priest once described to the children, a journey into the unknown, guided by faith and fortune. But you are not a child anymore, and you know better. There is no adventure here, only exile. You watch the landscape change, the colors bleeding from green to gray, the sky thickening with clouds. The men talk quietly between themselves, sometimes glancing at you as if to make sure you have not run away or dissolved into thin air. They do not speak your name. They do not ask if you are afraid. It would not matter if you were. At sunset, you pass a crossroads marked by a crude wooden sign, half rotted and illegible. One of the men spits on the ground for luck. You clutch your bundle tighter and stare straight ahead, promising yourself you will not cry. Not now, not for them. You do not look back again. There is nothing behind you anymore, and everything ahead is dark. In the last light of day, as the cart rattles on toward the unknown, you understand that farewell is not a single moment, but a slow, painful unraveling. Home is not just a place, it is a language, a smell, a heartbeat. You are untethered now, loosed into the world like so many girls before you, your story already slipping into silence before it has even begun. The road, which looked uncertain from the safety of your own doorstep, now reveals itself for what it is: a scar across the land, scored deep with centuries of rain, wheels, and the trudge of countless feet. You are no longer just a girl, you are cargo, shuttled through the veins of a world indifferent to your passage. You do not travel in comfort. The cart jolts with every rut and stone, bruising your back and hips. The straw you sit on, so carefully arranged by your mother that morning, quickly becomes a damp, flattened mess, already prickling with the movements of unseen bugs. Cold wind creeps beneath your patched dress, gnawing at your knees and shoulders. The blanket, begrudgingly thrown your way by the silent man beside you, stinks of mildew and something animal, but you clutch it like a shield. The countryside is not beautiful. It is a landscape of brown, gray, and occasional, pitiful bursts of green. You pass through fields long since harvested, the stubble poking up like the ribs of a corpse. Here and there, you see peasants hunched over, breaking clods of earth, or children chasing a thin, ragged dog through the muck. No one waves, no one meets your eyes. You are just another passing inconvenience, another chapter in a story they have seen too many times. Sometimes the men walking with the cart talk quietly to each other in voices too low for you to decipher. You sense your own presence as an inconvenience, something awkward they must deliver, something that smells faintly of fear and fresh departure. When they do speak to you, it is only to bark instructions. Sit still, do not wander off. If you need to relieve yourself, do it quickly. Behind the bushes, we do not have all day. When the cart breaks for rest, you are allowed to clamber down, legs stiff and numb. Your feet sink into the mud. There is always mud, clinging, sucking, ever present. You try to shake it off, but it is as if the road itself refuses to let you go. The men eat their bread and onions, ignoring you. Once, you ask timidly for water, and one of them tosses a battered flask your way. The water is cold and tastes of metal, but you are too thirsty to care. Night brings new discomforts. The men make a fire in a shallow ditch, its warmth barely reaching you as you huddle nearby, wrapped in your scratchy blanket. The air is thick with the scent of wet earth, burning wood, and the persistent underlying smell of sweat. The men talk in short bursts, laughter sometimes rising harsh and abrupt before dying away. You are ignored, left to chew your stale bread in silence. The darkness beyond the fire is absolute, filled with the creaks and whistles of a world that cares nothing for your fear. Sleep is a luxury you are not afforded. The ground is cold and uneven, every root and stone digging into your skin. The blanket is too thin, and the wind sneaks in wherever it can find a gap. Fleas or lice, old companions from home, discover you anew and feast through the night, their bites a constant, maddening itch. Every so often, a distant howl reminds you of the dangers beyond. Wolves, the men have warned, though you suspect the wolves would have more pity than some humans. You wake before dawn, shivering, lips cracked, throat raw from the night air. Your joints ache as you climb back onto the cart, and you quickly learn that silence is best. Complaints are met with indifference or scorn. There is no comfort to be had. You are here to endure. The road winds through villages smaller and meaner than your own, collections of sagging roofs and broken fences where even the dogs bark without energy. Sometimes you glimpse other girls in doorways, their eyes following you with a mixture of pity and relief. Relief that it is you, not them, who is leaving. Once, a group of boys throws a clod of dirt at your cart and laughs as it bursts against your leg. You do not react. You have learned not to give them the satisfaction. The journey is not swift. The cart travels at the pace of the slowest ox, and there are endless delays, muddy ruts too deep to cross, fallen branches, the need to stop and let herds of animals pass. The men grow more impatient each day, muttering about lost time, lost profit, lost chances for a dry bed at the end of it all. They begin to speak of you as if you are not there. If she catches cold, it is not our fault. If she falls, someone else can pick her up. Hunger sharpens your senses, blurring everything else. You ration your food with care, breaking your bread into tiny bites, letting each sliver of dried apple soften slowly on your tongue. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, your stomach cramps so badly you double over, teeth clenched, eyes squeezed shut. You do not cry. There is no one to hear you, and even if there were, what good would it do? You lose track of the days. Each one is a repetition of the last. Mud, hunger, cold, fear. The world narrows to the space you occupy in the cart. The scratch of straw, the heaviness of your bundle pressed against your chest. You do not allow yourself to think about where you are going, only that you are going. Forward is all that matters. You catch glimpses of your reflection in puddles beside the road, your face thinner, eyes darker, mouth set in a line you do not recognize. The girl who left her village is receding, washed away by the rain and the motion and the relentless march of necessity. In her place, someone else is forming, a creature of survival, alert and silent, whose only goal is to make it to the next day. When you finally see the outline of a manor on the horizon, a huddle of gray stone against the lowering sky, there is no sense of relief, only a new dread, a new uncertainty waiting to take shape. You pull your shawl tighter and huddle deeper into the straw, bracing yourself for whatever comes next. The journey, you realize, is not an interval between two lives. It is the beginning of what it means to be nobody, to be given, to be used. The cold and dirt will remain with you always, woven into your bones. The road, you suspect, is never really left behind. At last, after what feels like endless days of rocking and rattling through mud and filth, the cart slows before a set of gates. Your legs, numb and cramped, tingle painfully as you are told to get down. You stumble into a world that looks nothing like the stories you once heard. No golden towers, no banners flapping in a gentle breeze. This is not a palace. This is a fortress, grim and hunched, its stone walls streaked with moss and filth, its windows narrow and watching, like an eyes that do not blink. The men exchange words with a surly guard who eyes you with a mixture of boredom and faint contempt. He raises the portcullis, and you pass beneath it with the cart, listening to the chain grind and the iron teeth clatter shut behind you. The sound is final, like a door slamming on the last bit of childhood you carried with you. The yard is a churned up mess of mud, manure, and broken paving stones. Chickens scatter from your path, and a skinny dog eyes you from a pile of refuse, its ribs sharp as knives. You are led inside, your bundle clutched to your chest, your eyes darting between the shadows and the flickering torches. The grand hall is cold and damp, the walls lined with faded tapestries, so thick with dust they seem more gray than colorful. The air smells of mildew, old meat, and the sharp, acrid tang of tallow candles burning low. You realize, with a kind of dull disappointment, that there is nothing here of the richness you had half feared and half hoped for, only more dirt, more stone, more shadow. Servants move past you with lowered eyes, their feet shuffling along the uneven floor. You are not greeted. You are noticed and then immediately ignored, filed away as another burden to be carried, another task to be completed. One woman, her face hard as a root vegetable, gestures brusquely for you to follow. You do, your heart pounding, your legs trembling with fatigue and dread. You are shown to your new room, a narrow space off a drafty corridor, barely wide enough for the straw-stuffed pallet on the floor and a battered chest for your few possessions. The window is a slit in the stone, letting in more wind than light. The blanket you are given is threadbare, the mattress crawling with things that move when you lift the cover. You set your bundle down carefully, not because you hope it will stay clean, but because it is the last thing that still belongs to you. Your guide, who has yet to speak, hands you a chipped wooden bowl and a cup of water. Rest, she says at last, her voice flat. You will need your strength. There is no kindness in her words, only inevitability. She leaves, closing the door behind her with a sound that echoes like a verdict. You sit on the pallet, the cold seeping into your bones, the silence pressing in. Your mind races with images, your mother's face, your sister's cry, the muddy road stretching forever behind you. You want to cry, but the tears refuse to come. Instead, you focus on the small, practical tasks that remain, arranging your few belongings, tucking your food away where the rats might not find it, inspecting the room for any sign of comfort. There is none. Time becomes shapeless. You doze, waking shivering, uncertain whether it is morning or evening. The only clue is the arrival of a thin, watery soup, pushed through the door by another servant, who vanishes before you can ask her name. You eat mechanically, each mouthful an effort, the taste more salt than substance. When you are finished, you lick the bowl clean, remembering your mother's warning: waste nothing, not food, not words, not hope. Later, you are summoned to the kitchens, where the other servants gather for their evening meal. You stand at the edge of the room, unsure where to sit, unsure how to move. The others ignore you, their eyes sliding over you as if you are already invisible. You recognize their faces, tired, sallow, pinched with hunger and disappointment. They talk among themselves in low, hurried voices, never smiling. Every so often, the door swings open and a higher ranking servant strides in, and the room grows even quieter. You realize you are at the bottom of an invisible ladder, a rung beneath everyone else. There is no welcome, no ceremony, no explanation of your duties. You are left to observe, to guess what is expected of you. When the meal is over, you help wash the dishes, your fingers turning raw in the cold, greasy water. You are scolded for doing it wrong, too slow, too careless, too clumsy. You swallow your anger and keep your head down. No one cares if you cry. No one notices if you bleed. Night falls early in the stone halls. Candles gutter, casting monstrous shadows on the walls. The cold is relentless, creeping from the floor to your bones. You return to your cell of a room and curl up beneath your thin blanket, listening to the wind howling through the cracks. Somewhere above, footsteps echo, and you imagine the great lords and ladies living in rooms lined with furs, eating food you will never taste. You wonder if they know you exist, or if you are just another shadow passing through their world. You do not sleep well. You never will again. In the darkness, you clutch your bundle and think of home, already fading like a dream. You realize you are not safer, not warmer, not closer to anything you wanted. You are simply somewhere else, another stone in another wall, another story swallowed by the silence of a place that does not care if you live or die. In the medieval world, even the palace is only a prettier kind of prison, and you are its newest prisoner, alone and unremarkable, with only the cold for company. You are neither a guest nor a servant, but some ambiguous thing in between, a curiosity, a bargaining chip, a potential asset whose exact purpose has yet to be decided. This is not freedom, it is limbo, a state as cold and uncomfortable as the stone floor beneath your thin mattress. Your new home has its own routines, its own invisible rules. The other servants know them by heart. You, newcomer and outsider, learn them only by failing. You wake before dawn, not because anyone tells you to, but because the clatter in the halls and the shrill voices of the kitchen girls allow for no more sleep. There is no such thing as privacy here. The door to your closet of a room opens at any hour, someone barging in to borrow a shawl or to glare at you and mutter, "Hurry, you are already late." No one explains your role, but you are quick to understand that you are at the very bottom of every list. When the firewood must be fetched, you are the one sent out into the biting wind. When a chamber pot must be emptied, it is pressed into your trembling hands. You are never called by name. If the others remember it, they pretend not to. "Hey, girl," or "You there with the dull eyes," is all you hear. Sometimes, if they are feeling cruel, they address you as the gift, the word thick with mockery. Your days are an endless circuit of menial labor. You scrub floors, hands raw and knees bruised. You pluck chickens until your fingers are slick with fat. You sweep ashes from the great hearth, coughing on soot, hair singed by stray sparks. Every mistake earns a scolding. Every success is met with indifference. You learn to work quietly, to avoid attracting notice, to hide your hunger and your shivering. The cook snaps at you for being slow. The housekeeper shoves you aside for being in the way. When you spill a jug of water, a wooden spoon cracks across your knuckles. You grit your teeth and keep moving. Despite all this, you are watched, always watched. The mistress of the house, a sharp faced woman with eyes like polished stones, observes you from a distance. Her glances are measured, considering. She asks about your health, your family, your skill at embroidery. You answer with practiced humility, knowing that every word might be weighed and bartered. Sometimes she summons you to stand in the doorway while she entertains guests, as though you are an exotic pet or a new piece of furniture. You are meant to be seen, not heard. When you are finally dismissed, she sighs. Such a pretty thing. Shame about the manners. The other servants are not unkind, but neither are they friendly. They are too tired, too wary, too aware of the tenuousness of their own positions. Sometimes, if you work quickly or keep a secret, you are rewarded with a crust of bread or a corner near the fire. More often, you are left to eat alone, clutching your bowl in the shadows. Their jokes are not for you, their stories are not yours. You listen anyway, hoping for scraps of information: who is favored, who is feared, who must be avoided at all costs. You are forbidden from certain parts of the house. The upper floors, with their velvet drapes and gilded mirrors, are for nobility only. The wine cellars are locked. The stables are watched by sullen boys with quick fists. You learn the layout by instinct, like a mouse learning to scurry between traps. You know which doors creak, which steps are uneven, which corridors are safe at which hour. You memorize the patterns of the guards' patrols, the times when the kitchens are empty, the rare moments when you can steal a moment of rest. At night, you lie awake, listening to the sounds of the household, the laughter of the lords and ladies, the wailing of an infant somewhere in the nursery, the soft padding of mice in the walls. You pull your blanket tight and try not to think about the cold. In these hours, you allow yourself to remember home, your mother's calloused hands, your little sister's laugh, the way the wind rattled the shutters in your old hut. These memories are both comfort and torment. You know they are slipping away, like warmth from your body, and that soon you will be unable to recall the shape of your mother's face. Occasionally, a visitor arrives at the manor, an envoy, a merchant, a relative. These days are tense, the air thick with anxiety and false cheer. The kitchen is chaos, the servants snapping at each other as they race to prepare endless platters of grayish meat and wilted vegetables. You are dressed in your least patched dress and ordered to stand still, hands folded, eyes downcast. The visitors glance at you, some with interest, others with vague disappointment. You hear your name or something like it, spoken in tones that suggest you are both valuable and disposable. The lord of the manor, a heavy-set man with a voice like thunder, barely notices you. His attention is reserved for the men at his table and the wine in his cup. If he speaks to you at all, it is to bark an order or to complain that the fire is too low, the bread too hard. You learn to anticipate his moods, to slip away before his anger can find you. You wonder if he even knows why you are here, if he remembers the terms of the gift that delivered you to his door. You suspect he does not. Your days settle into a rhythm of exhaustion and vigilance. You learn that survival depends not on strength, but on invisibility. The quieter you are, the longer you last. You practice gratitude for small mercies, a bowl of warm soup, a dry corner by the hearth, an extra scrap of wool for your mattress. You count your bruises each night and whisper to yourself that it could always be worse. You are not a guest. You are not a servant. You are something in between, a placeholder, a promise, a symbol of someone else's negotiation. Your fate hangs in the air, unresolved, as brittle as the frost on your window. And so you survive day by making yourself small enough to fit the cracks in the world that does not want you. If you imagined once that your new life would settle into some predictable pattern of toil and silence, you are swiftly corrected. The manor is not merely a household, but a stage, a theater of endless, tedious performance, punctuated by the grand spectacle of diplomacy. Your existence, always a matter of utility, now becomes a matter of display. The first event is announced with much clatter and panic. News arrives from the steward, who scurries through the halls like a rat in a granary, breathless with the importance of it all. Visiting dignitaries, a distant cousin of the Lord, and even, rumor has it, a minor baron with ambitions of land and favor. The kitchen explodes into frantic activity. Even the laziest servant finds a reason to be busy. You are swept into the chaos before you can protest, arms filled with root vegetables, buckets of water, and grim instructions barked by the cook. As the day approaches, your value is briefly reassessed. The mistress surveys you in the gray dawn, pinching your cheeks, shaking her head at your worn dress, sighing at the stubborn tangle in your hair. At least her teeth are straight, she remarks, not to you, but to the other women. You stand motionless as she tugs a slightly better shift over your head, cinches it tight with a borrowed belt, and hands you a scrap of ribbon for your hair. Try not to look so sullen, she orders, as if you can change the shape of your life with a smile. You are not told much, only that you are to be presented. You know enough to be afraid. You have heard the stories, passed in whispers among the girls in the kitchens, of noblemen who choose their concubines at feasts, of servants who vanish after catching the wrong eye. Your stomach knots with dread as you scrub your face with cold water, scrape the dirt from your nails, and pray that the other girls will not play tricks on you today. On the day of the event, the manor is transformed, or at least a layer of filth is hurriedly brushed aside. Rushes are scattered over the floors to mask the smell of old stew and rat droppings. Candles are set in the drafty corners, their flickering light doing little to hide the stains on the walls. The air hums with nervous energy, the high-born children scolded into silence, the steward barking orders, the mistress gliding from room to room, all false cheer and sharp edges. You are positioned in the main hall alongside a handful of other girls, each of you arranged by age and height like livestock at market. The guests arrive, trailing cold air and the scents of horses, wine, and perfume. The lord of the house bellows greetings, laughter booms, goblets clink. You keep your eyes down, hands clasped, face carefully blank. There is a moment when you are introduced, not by name, but by lineage and value. The daughter of so and so, brought as a gift from such and such, strong and healthy, and see, teeth like a little mare. Laughter ripples through the room. You blush, humiliation prickling your skin, but you remain motionless. The baron's eyes linger a moment too long. The mistress murmurs behind her hand. You feel yourself shrink, shrinking smaller with every word, until you are certain you might vanish entirely if only you wished hard enough. Food is paraded before the guests, trays of tough meat, wilted greens, heavy bread. The air fills with the stink of grease and too many bodies in too little space. Servants scurry with jugs of ale and wine, desperate not to draw attention, but terrified of being ignored. You are instructed to serve at table, to pour and bow and smile, with just enough timidity to be pleasing, but not so much as to seem stupid. The rules are unwritten, but you know them by heart. You hover on the edge of every conversation, hearing yourself referred to in the third person as if you are already gone. The Baron, whose face is red from drink and whose hands are thick as sausages, calls for you to stand closer. He asks your age, your skills, whether you are strong enough to bear many children. His wife, dressed in tired silk, glances at you with open disdain. She will do, the Baron mutters, and his wife only sighs, already resigned to another mouth in her house. You realize, with a wave of nausea, that your fate may already be sealed by a single, careless word. Later, you are paraded with the other girls before the assembled men, like a lineup of livestock ready for market. You hear yourself compared to the miller's daughter, not as pretty, but broader in the hips, and to the blacksmith's niece, better teeth but smaller hands. No one asks you to speak. Your voice, your story is irrelevant. You are a set of features, a potential womb, a line item on a ledger written in grease and wine. The event drags on, endless and excruciating. The hall grows colder as the night deepens. The laughter turns rougher, the jokes more cutting. A spilled cup earns you a cuff on the ear. An ill-timed glance from a guest earns a muttered threat from the mistress. You begin to understand that your survival depends not on being seen, but on being seen only when it is useful. You are to be remembered just enough to be chosen, but never enough to be missed. By the end of the night, you are exhausted, stomach aching with hunger and dread. The guests depart, some laughing, some arguing, some too drunk to notice the trail of spilled wine behind them. The mistress calls you aside, eyes narrowed, mouth thin. You were passable, she says, which is as close to praise as you will ever get. Next time, try to look less afraid. You nod, mute, hands trembling as you gather the plates, scrape the leftovers into the pig bucket, and return to the kitchen. When you finally collapse onto your mattress, the cold and the dark are almost a relief. You lie awake, mind swirling with half heard conversations and unspoken threats. You realize that you are no longer a person, not even a servant. You are merchandise, a promise made and soon to be delivered. Outside, the manor settles into uneasy silence, and you wonder how many other girls are lying awake, trying not to be afraid of what the morning will bring. The moment you are given is not a celebration, nor even a clear event. It is a process, a slow and suffocating ritual built from 1,000 humiliations, each more ordinary than the last. It begins with whispers in the corridor, a tightening of glances at supper, a change in how the older servants avoid meeting your eyes. You are summoned to the mistress's chamber one evening, your hands still red from scrubbing pots, your dress stinking of smoke. She does not offer you a seat. She inspects you as a seamstress would inspect cloth, her eyes running over your body with the cold precision of someone evaluating livestock. She orders you to turn. She tells you to smile. She frowns at the tear in your sleeve and tuts at the roughness of your knuckles. You must do better, she says, as if your hands could ever be soft again, as if any amount of combing could make your hair shine like silk. You are dismissed with a warning. Tomorrow you will be presented for final approval. No explanation is given. Explanations are not for you. You spend the night sleepless, your mind chasing shadows, your stomach twisted into knots so tight you can barely breathe. The morning is cruel and bright. You are washed with cold water, your skin scrubbed until it stings, your hair parted and braided so tightly your scalp aches. A borrowed dress is draped over you, a shade too short in the sleeves, but cleaner than anything you have worn for months. The older kitchen girl fastens a battered necklace at your throat, muttering, "Smile. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not fidget." You are led through corridors that feel suddenly unfamiliar, echoing with footsteps and muffled voices. When you reach the great hall, you find it transformed for the occasion. Candles flicker along the walls. Fresh rushes have been scattered across the floor, and a table is set with the finest cracked dishes the manor can muster. It is as much ceremony as anyone here can afford. The Lord is there, looming in his high backed chair, wine in hand. The Baron, whose red face and greedy eyes you remember from the diplomatic feast, stands to one side. His wife perches on the edge of her seat, her hands folded tightly, knuckles white. Several men whose faces you do not know linger at the edge of the room, advisors perhaps, or just witnesses to the trade. You are told to stand before them, to bow your head. The conversation is not about you. It is about terms, about obligations, about what is owed and what will be paid. Your family's name is mentioned, but only as a footnote in a larger negotiation. You hear phrases that sound both like threats and like bargains. Her value is in her health. She is of good stock. You will find her obedient. You are asked to smile, to show your teeth, to turn in place so they can see that your legs are straight and your back unbowed. No one asks you if you are willing. No one asks you what you hope for. The Baron's wife makes a show of concern, peering at your face, murmuring to the mistress about good breeding and sturdy bones. The men laugh, discussing you as if you were a new plow or a barrel of wine. You feel their eyes linger on your hips, your hands, your neck, searching for flaws or signs of future value. When all has been said, the Lord nods to the steward, who produces a ledger and a small, heavy pouch of coins. There is a moment of ceremonial exchange, words of gratitude, the clinking of metal, the scratching of a pen across parchment. In another time, in another story, this might be called a wedding. Here, it is simply a trade, one household's burden becoming another's property. The Baron's wife, her lips pressed into a line, beckons you forward. She speaks to you directly for the first time, her voice brittle but not unkind. You will come with us, you will work hard, and you will bring honor to our house. Disobedience will not be tolerated. You nod, your mouth too dry for words. Your whole body trembles, not with excitement, but with the cold weight of resignation. The rest is a blur. You are escorted to your room to gather your few possessions, watched all the while by the steward, who does not trust you not to steal. The bundle you carry is lighter than when you left home. Things have vanished, claimed by rats or by other hands. You pause at the doorway, staring back at the mattress that will soon belong to someone else. There is no time for farewells. The Baron's household is impatient. You walk through the halls a final time, every shadow and crack familiar, every scent and sound already fading. The kitchen girls avert their eyes. The stable boys make jokes at your expense, their laughter echoing long after you pass. Only the old housekeeper mutters a blessing as you leave. May you find soft beds and kinder masters. You doubt her words, but you are grateful for the effort. At the gates, the Baron's carriage waits. It is not grand, a battered, mud splattered cart, but it is the vehicle of your new fate. You climb aboard, the door slamming behind you. The manor recedes as the horses pull away, the windows already dark, your place in that world erased as quickly as your name from the servants' roster. No one in the new household greets you with joy. You are escorted through unfamiliar corridors to a cold, small room, the air thick with the smell of must and damp straw. You place your bundle on the bed, sit, and wait. The ritual is complete. You are not celebrated. You are not mourned. You are simply gone from one place and present in another, your life traded for a handful of coins and the hope of future usefulness. It is only later, lying awake in the darkness, that you understand. You were not transferred, you were handed over. You are not a daughter, not a guest, not even a servant. You are property, exchanged, with all the ceremony of livestock and none of the dignity. The ritual is not for you, it is for those who own you, those who profit from your passage. Your name will not be remembered, your wishes will not be asked. In the medieval world, your story ends and begins in silence, in the space between two households, in the gap between what is owed and what is lost. You enter your new life not as a person, but as proof of a bargain struck, a treaty honored, a grudge finally laid to rest. You are a token, a trophy, paraded and then forgotten, always in plain sight, but rarely truly seen. You become a presence that hovers at the edge of conversations, a shadow passed from room to room, your footsteps echoing behind your new masters as a silent reminder that diplomacy is written in flesh. In your new household, your status is clear but slippery. You are neither a servant, bound by clear duties and punishments, nor a family member with a place by the fire. Instead, you occupy a space that is both visible and invisible, an ornament when visitors arrive, a scapegoat when tempers fray, a scapular to be worn, then put away. The Baron's wife refers to you as the girl, or, when she is in a generous mood, the little dove. You know better than to hope this means affection. Your days are not your own. You rise with the rest of the household, shivering as you dress in borrowed clothes that do not quite fit, their hems frayed and sleeves too short. Your room is little more than a cell, stone walls, a wooden cot, a single ragged blanket that does nothing against the biting draft. The window, if it can be called that, is a slit in the wall through which you glimpse only gray sky or blackness. It is both a mercy and a curse, a reminder that the world still exists beyond these walls and that you are no longer truly part of it. Your chores are handed down piecemeal, always shifting, never quite defined. Some days you help in the kitchens, peeling onions until your eyes sting and your fingers burn. Other days you are ordered to sweep the main hall, careful not to leave a trace of your own passing. When guests arrive, you are told to stand at the edge of the room, to be pleasant but silent, to smile with just enough gratitude to satisfy the Baron's wife, but not enough to attract suspicion. Remember your place, she whispers, lips barely moving, eyes never leaving the men in conversation. You learn quickly that there is no real safety in this new role. Here, your protection is as fragile as your usefulness. One wrong word, one clumsy gesture, one stain on your borrowed dress, and you become the target of frustration, suspicion, even violence. The Baron, bloated and restless, is quick to anger. His hand finds your shoulder if you pass too near. His voice turns sharp if you fumble your words. You become skilled at apology, at shrinking into corners, at making yourself smaller than the problem. Sometimes, when the household is in good spirits, when trade has been favorable, when the crops have not failed, when the Baron's mood is softened by wine, you are shown off to visitors. See what our neighbor has sent, the Baron crows, as if you are a rare animal. He recounts the story of the deal that brought you here, the debts repaid, the honor preserved. The guests nod, examining you with the practiced indifference of men who have done this before. The Baron's wife stands nearby, her hand tight on your arm, a warning masked as care. There are moments, too, when you are paraded before the other women of the house. They regard you with a mixture of curiosity and resentment, whispering behind gloved hands. You are compared to the other girls. Your skin, your posture, your manners, all measured and discussed as if you are not standing right there. You smile, you nod, you keep your answers brief and polite. You learn to be grateful when they ignore you, for indifference is preferable to cruelty. The household runs on unspoken rules, enforced by glances and silence. You are not to enter certain rooms. You are not to speak unless addressed. You must eat only what you are given at the time you are told. Any sign of disobedience, even the faintest hint of defiance, is met with swift correction, a sharp word, a slapped hand, a meal withheld. You realize that your life is now a performance, a test you cannot pass, but must never be caught failing. There is, of course, the constant threat of being sent away. The Baron's wife reminds you of it in small, cold ways. If you do not suit us, you will not stay. The kitchen maids joke about the girls who could not keep their place and were shipped off to harsher households, or worse, left to wander the villages with no name and no protection. The fear of exile hovers over you, a specter more terrifying than hunger or pain. At night, when you finally crawl beneath your blanket, you listen to the sounds of the manor, shouts from the hall, the creak of floorboards, the muffled weeping of another girl in another room. You press your fists to your chest and try to remember the rhythm of your mother's voice, the comfort of your old straw mattress, the warmth of your little sister's arms. Memory becomes both torture and sanctuary. Sometimes, in the brief, bright moments between fear and exhaustion, you allow yourself to look out the window at the moonlit fields and imagine another life, a life where you are more than a gift, more than proof, more than something to be passed from hand to hand, like a piece of fine cloth or a sharp knife. But the morning comes, and with it, another day of being what they need you to be. You are a victim, but you are also a trophy. Your suffering is not hidden, it is a currency, a story told and retold by those who own you. In this world, that is your greatest value, to remind others what is owed and what is possible when flesh is traded for peace. Your new days follow a rhythm so relentless that it soon becomes indistinguishable from survival. You wake each morning not because you have rested, but because the household itself insists, through banging doors, shouted orders, and the ever present threat of punishment for being slow. There are no soft beginnings, no gentle light through curtains. Just the gray press of dawn through a slit window, the cold stone floor beneath your feet, and the scurry of rats fattening on kitchen scraps. Your first task is always the same: to make yourself as invisible as possible. You slip from your bed, wrap yourself in your one thin shawl, and tiptoe down the corridor, hoping to avoid the worst of the morning's barking. Breakfast is not for you. You steal a crust of bread or a spoonful of cold porridge if the kitchen girls are too busy to notice. You eat quickly, careful not to leave crumbs, for even those are claimed by the mice. The house comes alive with noise and urgency as soon as the sun is up. Servants rush back and forth, each jealously guarding their particular duty, lest they be blamed for another's mistake. You have no territory of your own. You are borrowed for every task that no one else wants. Today you haul water from the well, arms aching as you lug the sloshing bucket up the icy stone steps. Tomorrow you scrub floors until your knuckles bleed and your knees burn. The day after that, you peel potatoes, the cold making your fingers numb and clumsy. Every task is watched, measured, criticized. The housekeeper inspects your work with a pursed mouth, muttering about country standards and lazy girls. The cook shoves you aside when you are too slow, yelling that the bread is burning, the soup is thin, the fire is dying. You are slapped if you drop a bowl, berated if you speak too softly, mocked if you forget your manners. There is always someone watching, someone waiting for you to stumble. You learn that there is a correct way to do everything, even suffering. You keep your shoulders low, your eyes lowered. You speak only when addressed, and then only in the smallest voice you can muster. If you are sent to fetch something from the cellar or the stables, you move quickly, head down, hoping to slip past the older boys who enjoy reminding you of your status with crude jokes and pinched arms. You learn the times of day when the corridors are empty, when the kitchen fire is left untended, when you might steal a moment to sit and rest your bruised knees. Meal times are a lesson in hierarchy. The family eats first, their table crowded with bread, cheese, and meat you will never taste. The servants eat what is left, in hurried silence, clustered around the kitchen hearth. You sit on the edge, waiting for a signal to approach, hoping for more than gristle and broth. Sometimes the cook tosses you a scrap in pity. Sometimes she ignores you altogether. Hunger becomes a permanent state, a gnawing ache that sharpens your senses and dulls your hope. The afternoons are a blur of chores, scrubbing, mending, carrying, cleaning. The house is never truly clean, only rearranged. Mud is tracked through the halls, soot coats the mantels, scraps and crumbs hide in corners. You are sent to sweep, to polish, to collect firewood, to haul chamber pots to the cesspit behind the stables. Every bucket is heavier than the last, every step colder. In the evenings, your tasks turn inward. You sit on a stool by the fire and sew, your eyes straining in the dim light. You mend torn linens, patch threadbare shirts, reattach buttons with fingers swollen and stiff. The older girls gossip quietly about things you do not understand, court scandals, rumors of plague, secret loves, bitter rivalries. You keep your silence, grateful to be ignored. Sometimes you are sent to the lady's chamber to help her dress for dinner. You hold out ribbons and pins, stand quietly as she complains about the draft, the food, the state of her marriage. You nod, you smile, you vanish as soon as you are dismissed. There are few moments of respite. Sometimes, if your work is satisfactory, you are permitted to sit by the dying kitchen fire, your hands wrapped around a mug of thin ale or watery soup. You close your eyes and let the warmth soak into your bones, dreaming of other places, other lives. But even these moments are fleeting. There is always another task, another summons, another voice demanding your obedience. At night, you collapse onto your cot, every muscle aching, every joint stiff. The straw mattress prickles through the thin sheet, and the cold is so deep it feels like a second skin. You scratch at flea bites and listen to the scratching of rats in the walls. Sometimes you whisper the names of your family, trying to recall their faces, their laughter. Memory fades faster than hope. You learn to sleep lightly, one ear open for trouble. Sometimes a child cries in the night. Sometimes the Baron's drunken footsteps echo down the hall. You lie still, heart racing, praying he will pass you by. The fear never leaves, only changes shape. Every day is a repeat of the last, a cycle of labor and hunger and silence. You measure your life in chores completed, meals skipped, bruises faded. Time becomes a blur of sameness, broken only by new disappointments. The seasons turn, the days shorten and lengthen, but nothing else changes. You endure because there is no other choice, and still you remind yourself it could always be worse. At least you are still alive, though sometimes you wonder whether that is a blessing or merely another duty you must perform. You learn, slowly and painfully, that your value depends not just on your obedience and silence, but on how well you maintain the parts of yourself that might still be considered attractive. In this world, your hair, your skin, your teeth, these are the only currency you truly possess. You are made responsible for their upkeep, though given neither the tools nor the time to do so. Every morning, after your first round of chores, but before the household fully awakens, you hurry to the well with a dented pail, hoping to catch a splash of water before it is muddied by dozens of other hands and boots. The water is icy and metallic, but you scrub your face and arms as best you can, shivering as the cold bites into your skin. There is never enough soap, so you ration the tiny waxy scrap you possess, using it only when you must, when the mistress will inspect you, or when visitors are expected. Your hair is your greatest burden. It is thick, unruly, and quick to tangle in the damp and smoke of the manor. You pull a bone comb through it, gritting your teeth as the teeth snag and pull. There is no privacy for this ritual. Sometimes you squat in a corner of the courtyard, fingers working knots out with mechanical determination, ignoring the snickers of the kitchen boys and the pitying glances of the other girls. You pick lice from your scalp as you go, crushing them between your nails, always aware that no matter how many you kill, more will take their place by tomorrow. Once a month, if you are lucky, you are allowed to stand before a cloudy, cracked mirror in the lady's chamber while she appraises your reflection. She pinches your cheeks to bring up a little color, tuts at the shadows under your eyes, sighs at the roughness of your hands. She might offer you a strip of cloth to tie your hair, a dab of fragrant oil left over from her own toilette. But these gestures are less about kindness and more about preserving the appearance of her household. A girl must look presentable, she reminds you, as if the world outside these walls is not made of mud and suffering. Your teeth are another trial. You know to keep your mouth closed when you smile, lest anyone notice the yellowing at the edges, the softening gums. There is no toothbrush, no powder, just your finger and a handful of ashes, which you rub across your teeth with a sense of futility. The taste is foul, and you spit gray sludge into the weeds, but you persist, remembering the day the mistress praised your good teeth in front of the visiting baroness. Compliments are rare enough to be hoarded, even when they are little more than observations about your remaining value. Your nails are kept short, not for beauty, but for practicality. Long nails break and catch, collecting dirt and inviting infection. Your hands are always raw, the skin cracked and bleeding from cold and lye. You rub tallow into the worst of the splits, if you can steal a lump from the kitchen, but more often you wrap your hands in rags and work through the pain. The scars and calluses are a map of your days, visible proof that you are more useful than pretty, more survivor than ornament. Clothing is another struggle. You wear what you are given, which is usually what others have outgrown or ruined. Each morning, you patch the worst holes, smooth the worst wrinkles, and try to disguise the stains with a well placed apron. You envy the fine gowns you glimpse on noble visitors, the soft linen chemises, the ribbons and laces. In your world, clothing is armor against scorn, and yours is always too thin, too short, too worn. You keep it as clean as you can, scrubbing stains with cold water and lye, hanging rags to dry over the smoky hearth. Sometimes, when the house is busy and the servants are distracted, you slip away to the garden where wild herbs grow in tangled patches. You crush mint or sage between your fingers, rubbing the juice behind your ears or onto your wrists, hoping to mask the odor of sweat and smoke that clings to you. It is a small luxury, and it never lasts long, but it helps you feel less like an animal and more like someone who might once have been cared for. You grow accustomed to watching yourself change in the fleeting reflections of pans and puddles. You see your cheeks hollow, your eyes grow sharper, your face lose the softness of childhood. You watch your hair thin and your lips crack in the winter cold. Some days you hardly recognize yourself, and you wonder what your mother would say if she could see you now. You wonder if she would still call you pretty, or if she would turn away, unable to bear what you have become. On holy days, when the house is at its cleanest and the lords attend chapel, you take special care with your appearance. You braid your hair tightly, pinch color into your cheeks, smooth your dress as best you can. You want desperately to look like the girl you once were, the girl your mother tried to make presentable for trade. But you know the truth. Beauty here is just another kind of labor, another mask to be worn for those who might profit from your face. At night, you pick at your scalp by candlelight, searching for lice, feeling for sores. You wash your face with cold water and hope the redness fades by morning. You scrape your teeth with ashes and chew on mint leaves if you have them. You press your hair between your palms and will it to shine, if only for a moment. You do all this because you must, because in this world, a girl's only safety is the illusion of desirability, and so you keep up the ritual, not out of hope or vanity, but out of sheer, dogged necessity. Your appearance is not for you. It is your last, fragile shield against the world's contempt, and you hold it tightly, knowing it can be taken from you at any time. Illness arrives as quietly as a draft beneath the door, unseen, unwelcome, but inevitable. It is not a question of if, but when. In your world, sickness is an ever present companion, lurking in the damp air, the spoiled bread, the filthy water. One morning, you wake with a weight in your chest, a cough sharp and insistent, and a fever that burns behind your eyes. You are not surprised. You are almost grateful at first. Anything that breaks the monotony of labor, even suffering, feels like a change. There is no comfort in sickness here. Your bed is as hard as ever, your blanket just as thin. The housekeeper grumbles as she assigns your chores to another girl. Do not get too used to it, she warns, as if illness is a holiday you have chosen for yourself. The cook scowls when you do not show in the kitchen. The other girls mutter that you are lazy, that you are faking, that you are cursed. Their words sting worse than the fever. You do your best to hide your symptoms for as long as you can. You wrap rags around your throat, try to swallow the coughs, force yourself to your feet when called. But illness is greedy. It will not be denied. Soon you are too weak to stand. You collapse on your cot, shivering and sweating, clutching your stomach as cramps twist through your body. Your skin breaks out in a rash. Your mouth fills with sores. You ache everywhere, 1,000 pains blooming beneath your skin. There is no doctor, no apothecary, only the old woman who tends to the sick in exchange for a few coins or a bit of bread. She arrives smelling of garlic and damp wool, carrying a basket filled with roots and dried leaves. She examines you with hands like twigs, pokes your tongue, peers at your rash. Her remedies are simple: a bitter tea made from boiled herbs, a poultice that smells of rot, whispered prayers to saints you have never heard of. Sometimes she lays a hand on your forehead and mutters, "It will pass," or "It will not." The remedies offer little comfort. The tea makes you gag. The poultice burns your skin. The prayers echo in your fever dreams. Still, you take what you are given, because to refuse would be to risk more than illness. A reputation for stubbornness is as dangerous as a fever in this place. The Baron's wife visits your room once, a scarf pressed to her nose, and tells you briskly that if you die, your family will be charged for the wasted food. You nod, not trusting yourself to speak. The world shrinks to the space of your cot, the taste of bile in your mouth, the weight of the blanket pressing on your aching limbs. Time loses its meaning. The sun rises and sets, sometimes visible through the slit window, sometimes hidden behind thick clouds. You drift in and out of sleep, waking to the sound of footsteps in the corridor, the scrape of the chamber pot, the distant clang of the kitchen bell. The other girls bring you thin gruel and stale bread, setting the bowls on the floor as if you might be contagious. No one lingers to talk. You are a burden, an inconvenience, a reminder of what everyone fears most. There are moments when you think you will not recover. Your body grows lighter, your thoughts float away. You dream of home, of your mother's cool hands on your brow, of soft words whispered in the dark. Sometimes you think you see her face at the foot of your bed, but it is only the old woman with another foul smelling poultice. Drink, she says, pressing a cup to your lips. Drink and pray. Slowly, painfully, you begin to mend. The fever breaks one morning, leaving you drenched in sweat and shaking with weakness. Your cough lingers, but your thoughts grow clearer. You sit up, propped against the wall, staring at your thin arms and hollow cheeks. You have survived, though you are not sure why. The world outside your room has not changed. The other girls still avoid you, still whisper when you pass. The housekeeper eyes you with suspicion, as if you have returned from a forbidden place. You are not allowed to rest for long. As soon as you can stand, your chores are thrust back upon you. You have had your share of idleness, the housekeeper snaps, handing you a bucket and a rag. Your muscles protest. Your head swims, but you work anyway. You scrub and sweep, chop and carry, all the while aware that any sign of weakness will be taken as a flaw, another mark against your worth. Illness leaves its mark. Your skin is dull, your hair falls out in clumps, your clothes hang looser on your frame. The Baron's wife sighs when she sees you, lamenting your lost color, your tired eyes. We will have to feed you up, she says, but there is little urgency in her tone. Food is scarce, and you are not the only mouth to consider. You pick at your bread, savoring each crumb, and tell yourself that survival is enough. You learn to hide the scars. You pinch your cheeks before inspections, tie your hair with a scrap of ribbon, scrub your nails until they bleed. You swallow your coughs, force a smile when spoken to, do your best to fade into the background. Illness, you realize, is a luxury for those who are missed when they are gone. For you, it is just another test to be endured, another shadow in a life already crowded with darkness. Still, you count yourself lucky. Some girls do not recover. They disappear from the dormitory, carried out in the early morning and buried behind the stables, their names quickly forgotten. No one speaks of them. Their stories end in silence, in the hush that follows every funeral in this world. You have survived, though you know it is only for now. The next illness is always waiting, just outside the door, biding its time. You wash your hands, avoid the cold drafts, mutter a prayer to the saints whose names you barely remember. You tell yourself that you are stronger now, that you have paid your price and will not be chosen again. But you know the truth. In this place, no one is ever truly well, only less sick for a time. The world is a field of weeds, and you are only the hardiest among them, still growing, still unwanted, still here. For a while after your arrival, you try to avoid the other girls, out of shame, out of pride, out of the faint hope that invisibility might be the best protection. But in a household ruled by hunger and fear, solitude is a luxury rarely granted. Slowly you are drawn into the shifting alliances and quiet wars of the captive girls, the ones who, like you, were traded, borrowed, or sent away from home as living tokens of their family's desperation. At first, you all eye each other with suspicion. Every girl is a potential rival for the best scraps of food, for a seat near the fire, for the briefest hint of the mistress's favor. The strongest form cliques, defending their patch of straw or their place in the washing line with a sharp elbow and sharper words. The youngest, still round cheeked and hopeful, cling together for warmth and comfort, not yet wise enough to recognize kindness as a dangerous form of currency. There is little time for true friendship. Days are measured in tasks and punishments, in bruises given and received, in whispered warnings and stolen moments of rest. You learn quickly whom to trust and whom to fear. One girl, Anna, will slip you a crust of bread on a cold morning if you have covered for her the night before. Another, Marta, trades secrets for favors, her eyes always watchful, her tongue quicker than her feet. There are girls who pray for each other in the dark, who share stories of lost brothers and distant villages. There are others who would sell you for a scrap of cheese or a warm blanket. Still, in this world of endless labor and suspicion, small moments of tenderness appear. When the fever comes, the oldest girl, Elsbieta, will sit by your side, pressing a damp rag to your forehead, humming songs from her childhood that you barely understand. When you tear your dress, another will offer you her needle and thread, muttering curses at the quality of the cloth. These moments are never acknowledged aloud. Gratitude is as dangerous as hope. It can make you vulnerable, can mark you as a favorite, can turn you into a target. You all become experts at hiding things, food, bruises, tears. At night, when the mistress's footsteps fade and the manor settles into uneasy silence, you huddle together on the cold floor, sharing a single thin blanket, the press of another body, the only warmth in a world that is always cold. You whisper about the places you left behind, the taste of apples in autumn, the sound of rain on the roof, the feeling of your mother's arms. These stories are a lifeline, a way to remember you were once more than property. Of course, even this fragile solidarity is not without cracks. Jealousies fester. A careless word, a look mistaken for scorn, and the group splinters into accusations and silence. Someone is always in trouble, and it is easier to offer her up than risk sharing her punishment. Betrayals are common, sometimes for reasons so petty you forget them by morning. Once, a girl is caught stealing a bit of sugar from the kitchen. The rest of you keep your eyes down, grateful it was not you, guilty that you feel nothing but relief. She is beaten, her cries echoing down the corridors. Later, you find her curled in a corner, silent. No one speaks of it again. Sometimes rumors swirl through the ranks. A new girl is coming. A girl has been sent away. Someone saw the mistress speaking with the steward in low, urgent tones. These moments stir a collective anxiety, a reminder that everyone here is replaceable, that your place can be taken at any moment. You watch each other for signs of weakness, even as you hold each other through nightmares. There are rare, shining moments of genuine friendship. A shared joke, a song sung softly when the day's work is done, a comb passed hand to hand so each of you might feel a little more human. For a heartbeat, you are girls again, not goods. You allow yourself to laugh, to dream of another life before the weight of the day returns. With time, you become fluent in the silent language of survival. A glance means, wait for me by the stairs. A cough means, the housekeeper is coming. A finger tapped on the table is an apology, a promise, a warning. Words are dangerous, but silence, you learn, can be powerful too. You try not to think about what will happen to you all. You know that some will be sent away to harder houses or crueler masters. Some will sicken and never recover. Some may even find favor and be promoted to nursemaid or scullery chief, their power over the rest of you more bitter than sweet. You cling to the small kindnesses, the alliances that shift with the seasons, the hope that at least for tonight you are not alone. When things are at their worst, when the beatings come too often, when the hunger gnaws too deep, when the loneliness becomes unbearable, you remember the night you and the others crept outside, breath steaming in the frosty air, and sang songs you barely recalled from home. For a few precious moments, you belonged to yourselves, not to anyone else. In the morning, it is back to work, shoulders hunched, eyes down, hope tucked away like a contraband loaf of bread. You do not have friends here, not really. You have companions in misery, accomplices in survival, witnesses to your slow fading. It is not enough, but it is something. In the medieval world, you take what you can get. 16 years old, in another world, you might still be called a child, but here you are considered old, overripe even, like a fruit left too long on the branch. You have been in the Baron's household for years, or perhaps only seasons. Time is hard to measure when each day is nearly the same as the last. But you know this. Every morning you wake with a new ache in your joints. Every evening your hair is a little thinner, your hands a little rougher. The soft roundness of your childhood has vanished, replaced by hollow cheeks and a set of lines at the corners of your eyes. Your value, once carefully tallied and whispered about in the cold kitchens, now begins to wane. The signs are everywhere, but no one says it aloud. The mistress no longer bothers to pinch your cheeks or sigh at the state of your hair. The Baron's gaze, once appraising, has shifted to the newer girls, their skin unscarred, their laughter less brittle. When guests arrive, you are kept in the background, told to serve quietly, your face a blank slate, your hands steady. No one parades you anymore. No one speaks of your good teeth or strong hips. If you are noticed at all, it is with a passing glance, an afterthought. She has lasted longer than most, the mistress mutters one day, as if you are a batch of bread gone unexpectedly stale. You feel you're fading in ways large and small. Tasks that once left you exhausted are now your refuge. Better to be scrubbing the hearth or hauling wood than standing idle, waiting for the world to remember you. The other girls, the younger, newer ones, watch you with a mix of pity and relief, knowing that your present is their future. You become something of a warning, a ghostly outline of what awaits them if they survive long enough. The little privileges you once scraped together are stripped away one by one. You lose your spot near the fire, your place in the line for the better scraps of food. The housekeeper assigns you the worst chores: emptying chamber pots, scrubbing greasy pans, hauling slops to the pigs. You are too valuable to throw away, too old to bother with, too familiar to fear. You are invisible, and invisibility, you learn, is not freedom, but erasure. The body, once so closely monitored, is now neglected. When you fall ill, the old woman is slow to come. When you cut your hand on a broken jug, you bandage it yourself, ignoring the blood that seeps through the rag. No one asks after your health. The mistress only shrugs. She will heal, or she will not. You know that if you die, you will be replaced by another girl whose name you will never learn. The fear that once pressed on you like a weight is replaced by a kind of numbness. You stop flinching at sharp words, stop caring whether your hair is neat or your dress is patched. Hope, already a rare visitor, deserts you almost completely. Sometimes, in moments of bitter humor, you wonder if you could simply walk out the door and vanish. Would anyone notice? Would anyone care? But there is no leaving. Not really. Even the freedom of the road is denied to you. You are too old to be a gift, too young to be released entirely. If you are lucky, you might be kept on as kitchen help, a nameless woman stirring endless pots of stew, your days measured in onions peeled and ashes swept. If you are unlucky, you may be sent away, turned out with a crust of bread and the warning not to return, left to wander from village to village, a stranger everywhere, welcomed nowhere. You think sometimes of the girls who did not last this long, the ones who sickened and died, who were sent off to harsher houses or married to men with nothing but hunger in their eyes. You do not envy them, but you do not pity yourself either. You are simply still here, a fact as unremarkable as the gray sky outside your window. In rare moments, you allow yourself to remember your family, your mother's tired face, your little sister's laugh. You wonder if they still think of you, if they imagine you in some comfortable chamber, honored and content. You hope they do. Let them keep their illusions. They are all you have left to give them. One evening, as you scrape the last bits of grease from a pot, you hear your name spoken softly by a new kitchen maid. She asks you how long you have been here, what it is like to last so many years. You consider her question, but you have no answer. Time is not a story here. It is only a procession of days, a collection of chores, a fading. You realize that you have become part of the manor itself, as much a fixture as the worn stones and the cracked timbers. You are present, but not remembered, needed, but not wanted. The years pile on, leaving you heavier, quieter, emptied out. The girls who come after you will learn the same lessons: that worth is always borrowed, that time is always against you, that the best you can hope for is a place to sleep and a bite to eat, and that someday you too will be swept aside, your name forgotten as soon as it is spoken for the last time. You are aging, losing value, but not yet released from the cycle of hunger and labor. Your future, such as it is a shadow. All you can do is endure. There comes a time when your presence in the manor passes almost entirely into shadow. You exist, but as a fact more than a person, a necessity, a background hum, the creak of old timbers in a drafty hall. You sweep the corners, mend what must be mended, keep to yourself. No one calls you by name anymore. New girls arrive and take your place at the hearth, their voices louder, their laughter less guarded. To them, you are only the silent figure who moves through the kitchen at dawn, the one with the tired eyes and the hands that never stop working. Your days blend together, indistinguishable except for the passing of seasons outside your narrow window. The world changes. A lord's banner is replaced with another's. Faces in the great hall shift. Rumors of war and famine drift in on the wind. But nothing touches you now. You are past the age of interest, past the age of threat. You are too plain to envy, too old to desire, too quiet to fear. This, you realize, is the closest thing to peace your life will ever allow, a kind of invisibility so complete that it is almost restful. Sometimes, when a holiday comes, you catch yourself remembering a song your mother sang, the way your sister used to squeeze your hand, the taste of apples stolen from a neighbor's cart. The memories come unbidden, flashes of another life that now feels like someone else's dream. You close your eyes and try to hold on to them, but they slip away, one by one, until only the ache remains. The younger girls sometimes ask you where you are from or how you came to be here. You shrug and tell them what they want to hear, a tale of distant villages, of bargains struck and promises broken. The truth is less interesting. You were born, you were sent, you survived. That is all. They lose interest quickly, drawn back to their own hopes, their own small dramas. You envy them their illusions, but you do not try to warn them. Warnings change nothing. Your body grows frailer with each passing winter. The cold gnaws at your bones, your hands swell and ache. The chores take longer, the stairs seem steeper, the air colder. Sometimes you wonder if anyone would notice, if you slipped away entirely, if your cot was empty for more than a day. You are not sure yourself. The only certainty is the work, the rhythm of the days. You have become so practiced at survival that you no longer remember what it was you were trying to survive for. One morning, you hear that a new gift will soon arrive. A girl from another village, another transaction struck in the hope of favor or peace. The kitchen hums with speculation. Some of the older servants grumble that there is never enough bread, that new mouths mean less for everyone. You say nothing. You watch as the cycle renews itself, as the girl arrives wide eyed and terrified, clutching a bundle of poor belongings, much as you once did. You recognize her fear, her hope, her shrinking. No one remembers what was traded for you, the sacks of grain, the handful of cloth, the promise of a favor, all long forgotten. You were a bargain, a line in a ledger, now replaced by a new entry, a new name. There is a comfort in this anonymity, a release from the burden of being seen. You do your work, eat your bread, sleep when you can. If you dream, the dreams are simple, warmth, quiet, a little kindness. You sense sometimes that your end is near, not a dramatic finish, not a cry or a protest, but a gentle fading. You wonder if you will simply not wake up one morning, if your absence will be marked only by the chores left undone. Perhaps one of the girls will mutter, "Where did she go?" And the housekeeper will shrug, "She was old, it happens." That will be the end of your story, a final vanishing act performed with no audience. The manor, the world, moves on without you. Your name disappears from the rosters, from memory, from the lips of those who once owned or commanded you. A new girl takes your cot, patches your apron, learns to flinch at the Baron's anger. The kitchen fills with new laughter, new whispers, new stories. The only thing that remains of you is the faint mark you left on the floor where you slept, a shadow easily swept away. Somewhere, far from here, a sister or a mother might light a candle or murmur a prayer for the daughter traded away so many years ago. But their lives, too, are filled with survival, and memory is a fragile thing. Soon even they forget the shape of your face, the sound of your voice, the story of how you left. And so you are gone, your existence reduced to a transaction, a handful of chores, a line in the dust. The world remains indifferent. It always was. This is the end of your story, a story of a girl given as a gift, a story measured not in glory or triumph, but in survival, in silence, in the gradual erasure of a life that was never meant to be remembered.